I do this for a living. I wrote a book about it. I did a TEDx talk about it. I do this all day, every day. And yet this is still hard for me. Even knowing this, I had so much dread. I did not want to confront it. My heart was thudding. It was pounding.
Hey there, it's Marley Majcher. Before we dig in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell because you definitely don't want to miss another glorious disaster here on Every Day's a Train Wreck. Because missing an episode, now that would be a train wreck. Let's get to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Every Day's a Train Wreck. I'm your host, Marley Majcher, and I've got a very special guest, Colette Jane Fehr, author of The Cost of Quiet. Now, you might find this ironic that the noisiest person on the planet is interviewing the woman who wrote The Cost of Quiet. But one of my best friends, you guys have heard him on the podcast. If you haven't, you got to go back and listen to this one with Simon T. Bailey, Mr. Brilliance himself. He said, oh my gosh, you've got to have Colette on. Now, I was like, wow, Simon, you are really taking a big chance here. But Colette and I already hit it off like a house on fire as we were prepping for this. And she's got this very cool book. It's a book I probably should have had like before I had my 12th husband. Maybe I wouldn't have been between husbands right now if I had Colette before that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Colette Jane Fehr, The Cost of Quiet, and she's going to tell you how she got to this very noisy place. Colette, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I love the intro. So much more entertaining than 99.9% of these. And I'm laughing too, Marley, because the irony of you having someone on who wrote The Cost of Quiet is not even half as much as the irony of someone like me writing a book with quiet in the title, because I never shut up. And so let me just start out by saying that as it comes to the book, quiet is really a euphemism for avoiding hard conversations, not being a quiet person, because God knows that's not me and that's not a lot of us. But I got to this place, I'm a couples therapist and I'm a relationship coach and all that kind of stuff. But so I've been doing this work for a long time, and I started really seeing that what I lived in my first train wreck of a marriage was what I know, right? Was playing out over and over in my office, and that there was a problem with avoidance that most people didn't see. And that's why I wrote the book.
Going through your stuff and listening to your why you wrote it and reading a bit about it and then reading about all the people that endorse the book, you can't help but seeing yourself in these scenarios. At least I couldn't, right? And I guess the big obvious question is, why do even noisy people stay quiet? Because I could see myself in so many of those situations where I was like, I mean, I feel like I'm the constant boat rocker, but then there are days where I just like have said exactly what you say, which is, I just didn't want to deal with it today, or I just didn't want to. Like, why do we have this false sense that if we just don't bring it up, somehow it won't be there, or won't get worse, or it won't go away, or
That's exactly it. We have that false sense. So a lot of it is really the way our brains are wired, and it's outside of conscious awareness. Most people don't think of themselves as avoidant. And we have all this talk about attachment styles now, anxious, avoidant. I do address that in the book, but this is really different. And it is like you say, women, I have all these women in my office, whether they've been home with kids or have big, powerful careers, who are really smart. They're emotionally intelligent. They're assertive. These are not shrinking violet women, but there's certain moments where we need to say something and it requires us to be vulnerable, right? And we need to say it without getting angry or critical or accusatory or blaming, which are also forms of avoidance that I address in the book. But it feels scary. And it's scary because we have this neurobiological paradox within, that we're wired for both connection and protection. So we want to be close, we want to be known, but our nervous systems are really, our brains really about keeping us alive. So
Yeah.
it feel conflict, especially when we don't really know how to handle it, which most of us don't learn good conflict resolution skills in our
Mhm.
families of origin. It feels like a threat. We get
Yeah.
signals of danger from that other person. And a lot of times it's just anticipation in our own mind. This won't
100%.
yes, this won't go well. It'll make it worse. What's the point? Because nothing will change
Right.
anyway. I'll be seen as difficult. Now we're going to ruin the day with an argument that's
Mm.
just going to lead to the same unproductive, nothing changes. So why would I put myself out there? But unfortunately, when we don't, we swallow those things. Problems move underground. They become harder and more expensive to fix. We end up mired in resentment that builds slowly over time. And all of this leads to the distance and disconnection that ultimately ends relationships if we're not careful. But worse, Marley, is that all of that really destroys our relationship with ourselves because we self abandon instead of honoring ourselves with clear, assertive communication.
And then sometimes I think, like, just because people stay together, I think sometimes that can really be worse. I mean, that talk about driving like a splinter further into your hand, I mean,
That's a lot of people, too.
that is a lot of people, and that can really go off the rails, right? Because I always say, like, that pot that is going to bubble over somehow, right? Somehow, some way, that volcano, that whatever, it might start hissing, but eventually it is going to blow in some way, shape, or form. Now, to
Yep.
your point about how we're wired for protection and to keep ourselves alive and all that stuff. I get it. So, do you think, is there a component that is, if I knew I had a strategy that would get me to the other side of the conversation, or is likely to get me to the other side of the conversation with some kind of resolution or feeling better, would we then not avoid it so much? Like, is it just like saying I have something in my toolkit that would help?
So this is what I give with the book is a solution, my process, self-connected communication. And I'm hearing from people all over. I really didn't think this would work. I didn't want to do it. And I got a different response. And
Mhm.
worst case, no matter how clear you are, sometimes people can't or won't meet your needs, but then you're
Yeah.
going to have honest terms to make decisions. What happens is that once you have the tools, you have to work through a little initial discomfort because this is so unconscious and
Yeah.
automated, this avoidance, but once you do it and you see what I see in my office every day is people go, wow, that actually felt really good to just say it. And
Mhm.
wow, this person, my sister, my husband, my business partner just responded totally differently than my brain told me they would.
Right,
Once
right.
you take it in experientially, then you're starting to build a muscle to do this, and then you start to want to. Like, I was the most vocal, least willing to confront vulnerable conflict of any woman that could exist.
Why? Why? Like, so, we were joking in the beginning, or I was joking in the beginning. Okay, you've got like noisy party of one. Obviously, I have a podcast, but why is it then? Because people cannot believe that I will still be like, oh my God, I don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah,
Because I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or I don't want, and they're like, oh, that's ironic because you hurt people's feelings all the time. But I'm not like consciously doing it, right? This feels
exactly.
like I'm consciously gonna like harpoon somebody with a butter knife. Why
Okay,
is
so
it?
that is because and what you describe is exactly the gook that comes up. So it feels like that we don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings or burden them. And in fact, those very words I hear all day in sessions. But what that really is the automated messages our brains are sending us under the guise of protecting someone else's feelings. That's really about protecting ourselves from vulnerability. Like we assume we're going to hurt someone or, oh, well, I don't want to tell them because then they won't want to or they'll take it the wrong way. But really, it's that we're afraid to be vulnerable. And it's natural for that to be scary. You
Yeah,
put yourself out there. And if you really own something and someone else might be disappointed, they might be hurt, they might not agree. Those things feel scary and threatening to our relationships until we get some confidence under our belt handling them and come
yeah,
to understand, if we say it nicely, which being direct and assertive has to also have the kindness component. You
yeah,
can be clear and say, when you did that, when you said that, I felt really hurt.
Mhm.
because the story in my mind is that it meant that you didn't really care about me as much as you thought. And maybe that's not true. That's the message I got. And I'm bringing this to you because I care about you and I'm
Mhm.
hoping I'm wrong. Right? And it's
Yeah.
really scary for me to tell you when that other person even if they react poorly and you realize, wow, you know what? I can handle that. I'm an adult. I'm an emotionally mature adult. And if somebody is hurt or upset, I can handle it. You got to get that experience in your
Right.
body to know it's true. So until you have it, your brain's going to keep telling you, no, you'll hurt their feeling. Oh, no, it'll create an awkwardness. Oh, it's going to be bad. We're going to get in a fight. They're going to reject or abandon me. All that gook is noise where your brain's trying to protect you, but it's actually harming you because
Yeah.
all your brain cares is that you survive. It doesn't care if you thrive. And we
Great
need
point.
connection to thrive.
It's human nature to say things that are misinterpreted, or we don't always know what our tone is like or our face is like, or something else. And just like what you're describing, when you say, they're going to feel this way or they're going to feel, but when you describe your own feelings, so many times when I've had conversations with people like that, and they'll be like, well, I felt really, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's the last thing I thought, I wasn't intending that. Maybe that's where the relief comes from, but it is really scary because it's feel like you're like just rolling the dice. Like, I don't know, maybe they're gonna be like, no, you truly are crazy, you know?
Okay, 100%. And what you're pointing to is exactly it. Most of the time, our interpretations are off, and there's a lot of comfort and connection that comes from someone giving you that reassurance. And I'll just give you a recent example because I do this for a living. I wrote a book about it, I did a TEDx talk about it. I do this all day, every day. And yet, this is still hard for me. Now, I've gotten where it's not hard with my
Yeah.
husband, but I've noticed with friendships
Ah,
that
yeah.
it's still a struggle, and in some ways, I think sometimes as women, that can be the hardest place because your friendships are like, you think of that as that's like my safe place, right?
Yes.
Like my girlfriends are my people and I feel so connected. And female friendships are such a source of joy in life where other relationships can be hard. But what happens when a friend does something that really, really hurts you? And recently, around my book launch, I had a friend who behaved in a way I still don't understand it, very, very hurtful, was not supportive about the book launch. And okay, I don't think that was her intention, but that's
Mhm.
how it landed.
Mhm.
Really hurt me. And the message I got from it is, okay, we're not as close as I thought. And this is a
Mm.
friend I've had for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Okay. The last person, you go through a divorce, launch a book, go through a crisis, good or bad, and you'll
Mhm.
see who your people are
When the
better than
chips
ever.
are down, when the
Yep.
chips are down, you know who your friends are.
Exactly. And so as I thought about Marley, I give this method in the book, self-connected communication, that makes it really easy to process your experience first. I give a whole blueprint. It's like emotional Mad Libs where you can fill
Mm.
in your own stuff and then you know exactly what to say. Even knowing this, I had so much dread. I did not want to confront it. My mind was saying all the things. She's not going to understand. This is going to create a big rift in the friend group. Other people are going to get involved. It's going to turn into a whole thing. I'm just going to make it more awkward. I don't want to be friends with her anymore. I'm just going to pull away
It's
and
amazing all the stuff that comes up, right? I mean, it's like, and
100%.
I mean, and then you're like, and then 30 years ago, now I remember, I don't think she liked my haircut now that I think
Oh,
about
yeah.
it. And I mean, it is a kitchen sink of issues once
Oh,
you go down that path.
that's exactly what happened. My mind even went to, like, a comment she made when I was getting divorced in, like, 2004,
Mm.
that, like, still all the proof, the evidence the
Yeah.
brain collects of how this person doesn't have your back. So,
Right.
I am proud to say that it gave me a really new experience of how scary it feels because I've been doing this kind of communication for a long time. I used my own method. I literally followed the steps and wrote it out, and as I went into the conversation, my heart was thudding. It was pounding. And
Sorry, but this is like a great dose of humble pie that we all need. I don't mean that you necessarily need
yeah,
humble pie, but it's kind of nice when the person giving the advice like gets smacked with the same stick. I can say that right now because I've been getting smacked with the same stick lately myself. And it's just like, oh goodness, evidently I really needed to just be brought down a notch. Thank you very much. Like practice what I preach. Okay, so go on. So
Yes.
you
Yes.
so you worked it out and excuse me, you worked out your steps.
Yes, yes, but I was still even with my process, I was going into it and I could feel these temptations. Like I wanted to come up with a narrative of why me not talking to her about it wasn't really avoiding. And then I had
Ah,
to just come to Jesus and I'm like, look, here's the thing. I've gotten so comfortable doing this in my marriage. Not that my marriage is so perfect, but I
no, I
now
get it.
live the mission of my book. But with this friendship, I've never really had to confront her. We've been
Mhm.
friends since we're kids. We live very different lives. My story is that she's not as emotionally developed. She's not going to know how to handle the conversation. It's going to be a disaster. So I finally realized this is me smacking myself with my own stick. I am scared of the conversation
Mhm.
because it's human and I
Mhm.
have a method. And you know what? I'm going to do it because I owe it to myself to just say what's true. And I'm
Mhm.
going to be tactful, but direct and clear and honest and not come at her with blame or accusation. And so I had the conversation. I told her I wanted to talk.
Okay, now pause. This is
Yes,
my question because
yes.
this is I know my audience and this
Okay.
audience is going to want to know. Did you text her and say,
Yes.
"Hey, we need to chat"? Did you call her? Did you leave
Yes.
a voice message? Did you shoot an email? Because like if we're going to get into the weeds of the nitty-gritty, I mean, it sounds crazy, but all that stuff matters. You're like, "Oh, what's the I mean, then you start overthinking every step. No wonder we never get to these conversations." So you texted her or like what did you say ish?
Okay, so first of all, what I said, so these conversations should never happen over text, but I did text her. I didn't want her to be blindsided. I
Yeah.
had a sense that she might have felt a little bit of distance from me. And that's
Okay.
part of why being an adult, instead of just letting someone figure
Right.
things out, we need to be clear. So I sent her
Right.
a text and I said, hey, something's been on my mind.
Hmm.
It's nothing horrible, but I do feel like I need to talk it through with you.
Yeah.
Could we make some time and just get a time on the calendar, even to talk for 20, 30 minutes. So we
Yeah.
made a time to talk. She did try to press me on what's it about. And I said, look, I feel like it's not appropriate to handle through text.
Yeah.
And there's so much miscommunication. I'd really rather just wait until we talk. And of course, she was anxious. So she wanted to talk as soon as possible, which I honored.
Yeah.
And then the key of why this went well. So part of it was I had a big launch event and she
Yeah.
didn't come. And lots of people didn't come and couldn't come, and I'm not like a demanding friend where I expected everyone that my
Right.
book was important, but she was in town the
Mm.
day of my launch, hadn't RSVP'd, and she
Ooh,
doesn't
yeah,
live
yeah.
here and was here and then blew it
Oh.
off, didn't respond to
Oh.
me, didn't like I had asked close friends to buy a bulk order of books
Yeah.
within reason to help me, which is a very common thing for authors.
Yeah.
She blew that off. Then she was a jerk about it. I mean, she did a lot of things that
Now I
really
want her phone number. I'm like, can we
right,
post it in the notes? Okay, but so then you
right.
say, listen, let's get together. But from the time you texted and she's anxious, so you're
Couple
like,
days,
okay,
couple days. It was
got
a
it.
couple
I don't
days.
even think I'd be able to wait a couple days. Okay, so
Well, and I
anyway, but
think
I get
she
it.
didn't want to, but, there was no time to talk, so and
Yeah, I get
I
it.
agreed, like, we need to do it as soon as possible, so my heart's thudding going into it, but I've written out what I wanted to say, and I didn't read it off what I wrote, but the act of writing, and this is
Yeah.
part of why I give this self-connected blueprint, processing your emotions by going inside and closing your eyes, and I give this whole method in the book, and then writing it out really helps you to get clear and grounded so that
Mm-hmm.
when you go into the conversation, you can either have that with you, which I did. Worst case, you can read off of it, but you're really prepared. And so
Yeah.
I approached her by saying, this is part of my process, the attachment frame. Like, look, you are important to me. This relationship has been important to me. We've been friends for a long time. And that's why I'm bringing this up because I'd rather not do this. And then I
Yeah.
always coach people to acknowledge how difficult it is. Like, this is really hard for me. I usually avoid these things. I feel terrified right now. It helps the other person to
Yeah.
hear your vulnerability, but it helps you to feel
Mm-hmm.
more grounded when you just name how you're feeling. And then I expressed in a very clear message, when these certain things happened in factual terms, right? No
Yeah.
blaming or accusing. I don't know what your intentions were, but I can tell you it was very hurtful to me. And honestly, it was very surprising in
Mhm.
light of how like strong our friendship's always been. And I was left feeling like we're not as close as I thought because in no world could I imagine being in your town on the day of your book launch. She got a little, so to her credit, she did get a little bit defensive, but not too much. And then she's like, well, does it help to know that I didn't intend? And I said, no, it doesn't help at all because intentions really don't matter. Impact
Mhm.
does. And I said, "I do appreciate." She said, "I am so sorry I hurt you. Like I had no idea." And she was definitely taken aback. I will give her credit that she listened, that she apologized for hurting me. And I was honest. I said, "Look, I appreciate that. I'm not really looking for anything. I don't know if this can really be repaired for me or to what degree." And that's just me being honest. I'm not looking for you to kill yourself apologizing or do
Yeah.
anything grand, but I just don't want to be fake with you. And I felt like I owed you an explanation because I do feel a need to pull back. And I feel like I need some time and let's see what happens. And she's since sent me a couple notes apologizing and it
But
just
why? But why wasn't she there? What did she say?
so it was what I suspected and it was very unsatisfying, I'll be honest with you. A lot of
Can be
people
satisfying for me. So
okay, that's what everyone thought, but you know what? Knowing her, I didn't think that. This is a woman who lives a very, stay-at-home mom, many years, very, very wealthy. But really, in my gut, knowing her for a long time, I'm like, she does not care about any of this or like desire visibility or career success. And I think really genuinely, I don't think it was that, although I get why people guessed it. What she said basically is just, I've been self absorbed and wrapped up in my own life.
yeah, because she was and too jealous to go over there. I mean, okay, like, hello, Colette. Like now I'm gonna like give you some love. I mean, let's face it. Like, okay, we're both business women. We're both out there, whatever. Okay, and then let's face it. You have friends, you have trust fund friends, you have whatever, and from the outside, you're like, I know they
They
don't
don't,
want this career thing. They don't care. They don't want if they wanted to write a book, they could have written a book. If they
right?
wanted to do this, if they want these accolades, they could have had them. They could have bought them. They have enough friends to get 'em, blah 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 blah. But that doesn't change the fact that didn't necessarily want to be like you launching the book that day, but it was very different for all the limelight to be on you. Not that they wanted that limelight, but it was like, oh, and I don't know. I see this a lot of times with my friends, maybe who are, maybe when they stop work for a bit because their kids are little, or maybe, all kinds of different reasons. And then they see people out there in the working world who are like, okay, all of a sudden get some big award, and then it's threatening because it puts the light back on us, and then we go, what have I done? Right. And by the way,
Exactly.
you could have been an Olympian, but you weren't an Olympian and room mother, right? Because to me, I think that women, it's the same thing. Like we last week we filed for our third patent, right? And somebody's like, oh my God, that like one of the moms, because my daughter just graduated from high school. It's like, "Oh, that's great." And whatever. And I was like, "Oh my god, yeah." But I said, "Sure." But I was thinking of all the things that I should probably, I mean, I don't know, should, whatever. But that I was like, "Oh my gosh, was I involved enough with my daughter this last month of
Yeah.
school? Was I in, now granted, my daughter, I don't think particularly wanted me around this last month of school. They've got proms, they've got all this other stuff. But in my mind, I'm like, forget about the patent application. Like, which is kind of a big deal, right? But I was just so like, there were so many other parts of my life that I
Yeah.
still didn't feel like I had done very well, right? So did I want to be room mother of the year? I would have failed miserably. I can never even remember to pick my kids up from school. Have a real problem in my brain with stuff like that. But that doesn't change the fact that there's a component where you're just like, why can't that be me? Not that you genuinely want to switch places. You get it?
No, 100%, and I will say I have bumped into exactly what you're saying. I think that is a very human and common dynamic, and I've bumped into that exact thing with other certain friends in this. Knowing this particular woman, what I really think though, even though that is the most seemingly obvious thing, and maybe it is, who knows deep down
Yeah,
under the
yeah.
hood. But what I really think with her is that she has been out of this world. She's never been in this world. She's
Well, yeah.
never done
I
anything
could
career.
have told you that because then
Yeah,
that's why she would have just known, man, she like blind,
right,
deaf, and dumb. She should have
right.
just been at the back of the room.
Right.
Yeah.
And I even had said, like, I understand if you have blah, 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 come by for 10 minutes. And other friends who were like, hey, I wish I could be there, but I can't. It's not like I was upset with anybody. It was the way everything was handled
Right.
that I really had a problem with. And I think at the end of the day, she didn't get why this was such a big thing and she didn't really care. She's more worried about like getting her kids, comforters to their new dorm room, and it wasn't really important. And here's the thing, I don't think she's a bad person. And I don't, and I still love her and care about her. And maybe in the future we'll be friends again. It's not like I'm holding a grudge, but what it is that when someone makes you feel like you just aren't a priority or matter, they really don't have your back, then
Mm.
that's revealing. And I just don't want to choose to invest what little time and energy
Right.
I have at this season of life when I feel really embarrassed. I feel so embarrassed. I haven't told my mom this friend
Yeah.
did this because
Yeah.
my mom knows her since childhood and would be shocked. It's like embarrassing to me.
You hit the thing that I was going to ask you or that I was going to mention next, which is this whole component of like I don't know, this season of life where I call it like no F's given, like where it's just like
Yes.
thank you next. I mean,
Yes.
it just I'm happy to just tell you all my flaws right here at the that's
Me
part of the
too.
reason why I, started every day as a train. It's like, okay, listen, I just did this, and this wrong. Like, and by the way, I continue to do this, and this wrong. Like, I'm going to tell you before you have to Google it, right? Like, I'm going to take the air right out of the sails of the like Inquirer. You're going to be outed tomorrow. It's like, oh hell no, happy to out myself today, sugar, because you're just like at this point, yeah, I mean, not that we're dying tomorrow, but you don't know. And you're just like, I don't know, at a certain age, I think you get to the crossroads where you just say, do I want to put more in this piggy bank? Or maybe are there a few other places I'd like to invest my time? Because let's face it, even my closest friends, I don't feel like I ever spend as much time or as as I should, or you know what I mean. We have all
Agreed.
those things,
Agreed.
and then you're like, wow, I have real evidence of somebody who multiple times
Yeah.
just
Doesn't care.
didn't doesn't care and didn't see it the way I saw it, and that's when I don't know, I think a healthy person says, okay, you don't have to try to burn down her house, but
Right.
you
Right.
go,
Right.
I don't know that I'm going to now go out of my way.
What I feel so good about, and I could feel yet another reinforcer that made
Hmm.
me so glad I wrote the book. Like I do believe all this happened for a reason in a
No, it
way that
always
I
does.
needed to relive the mission of my book in current times because I've been at this so long and really feel how hard it is and how scary it is again in a different context. And by doing this thing that I'm encouraging people to do, which is honor yourself,
Yeah.
say what's true, be clean and clear and vulnerable,
Yeah.
even if it's scary, because the relief I felt,
Yeah.
the sense of pride I felt, the confidence booster, and now
Right.
I'm on clean terms with her. I was carrying it around.
Oh,
I'd
of
be doing the
course.
dishes and then it would pop up. I was having fake conversations with
Yeah,
her at times.
oh, yeah, the fake
Yeah,
conversations,
yeah.
that's
At
the book
times
that
I was
needs to
like,
be written, all the fake
yes.
conversations, right? Oh,
Yes, and at
mama mia.
times I was like, "F her," and I was
Yeah,
imagining
exactly!
the next time I saw her and how I was gonna be, and all
Right.
of that is so toxic to our system. I mean, this
Oh,
stuff
God.
has been linked, emotional suppression, to cardiovascular disease, immunological disorders, autoimmune, the risk of stroke, irritable bowel syndrome. Like, this stuff is evidence-based. So,
Yes.
it really immediately I felt afterwards better. I
Mhm,
felt like I was proud of how I handled the conversation. I was
mhm.
very clear with her. Like, I'm not angry at you anymore. I accept your apology. I
Mhm.
thank you for your apology, and I still feel the way I feel.
Yeah.
So let's just take some space and we'll see what happens down the road. But like, thank you for having the conversation. And now it's out of me.
Yes.
And if I see her, I'll be nice and it won't be fake. Like, she
Well,
knows who.
exactly, that's the thing. It's you just to me at least, it's just I don't wanna be fake. I don't wanna be, like, on one
Yeah.
hand, having the fake conversation, where in my mind I'm showing up like a gunslinger cowgirl, like, "Pow, pow, 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 pow," and then, I see her and then I'm like, "Oh, hi." It's just
Ugh.
let's just
It's passive aggressive
I don't
and
wanna
it
do that.
no, and this is why I compare it in the book to victim volcano syndrome is what I call it,
Yeah.
because when you don't say these things, they store up and they stack up and the pressure builds like hot lava, and eventually either you lash out and explode and
Mm,
spew on other people, and then they go, "Wow, that reaction was so crazy and disproportionate," 'cause
right.
it seems like it's to the little thing, but really you've
No,
built
no.
up, or you implode inside and you get really sick, and it's
Yeah,
bad for your mental health and your physical health. So this is something we need to do, but it requires building a muscle, and it's
totally.
naturally not comfortable. It's initially it's uncomfortable.
And you're so right that it is like building a muscle and that it does get easier and sometimes you get in a stage in life, whether circumstances like, divorce is a good example, or somebody who's betrayed you or whatever, and then you get to the point where you just are like you feel like you can't be hurt anymore by something, or so you just are like, yeah, whatever, I'll have the hard conversation now because I'm having a lousy day or a lousy month or a lousy year. and
Yes.
and just like what you're saying, I had somebody with whom I'd done business with for many, 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 many years, and was always like, I was like her cheerleader kind of thing. Like, I was always
Yeah.
like referring her to everybody, referring her to all my friends, like, and she built up a big business right here because I was always touting her, right? So it's the same thing, you'd hear she'd talk garbage about other people, and I figured to a certain extent she probably did the same thing with me, because we know if you talk crap about somebody, you're probably going to do it about other people. And so, you figure that, but then one day, a few weeks ago, somebody came to and was very specific about something she said that was so hurtful that she knew nothing about,
Oh.
and that she was telling somebody very random to her, but that was like part of this whole network of business that I really helped her build up. And because the one thing about Pasadena, like, stuff doesn't really get built up for you if you're not from here, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I was like the girl that was vouching for, and I'm telling you, I was so angry and hurt that I was calm, right? And it happened to be my private investigator friend. Ironically, it helps to have a private investigator friend who was like, basically telling me in real time, "Hey, this just happened and you want to get in front of this." And I was like, "Hey, no problem." And I just called her up and was like, "Hey," and I had my points and I just got right to the point. She's like, I confronted her on what she had said, and she's like, "Well, I didn't, like, why would I do that?" I was like, "This isn't a debate. I
I
know what you said."
You
Like, in
did it.
this case, I actually do know. Like, I know what you said. I know to whom you said it. Probably not all the people to whom you said it. But I said, I was so shocked. I was so hurt because I have literally taken you under my wing
Yeah.
and put probably, well, now we know, a lot more attention to helping you than I should have. And she's like, but well, how would I even? I said, again, not a debate, but I just said, I feel like handling things like like person to person as opposed to whatever, garbage she was doing. And so I just was like, I want you to know from my mouth why I'm not using you anymore, why I'm not referring you anymore, and why, and I'm not taking an ad out saying don't work with you, but you need to hear from me that this is not okay. And please stop running your mouth about something you know absolutely nothing about. And I mean, I probably got off the phone and barfed. Quite frankly, I can't even believe it. But I was literally so calm. But I got off the phone and I was like, I can't believe I just did that. Cause normally that would be something I would stew about and again have
Yep.
all the fake
Yep.
conversations and whatever. And in this case, probably for the first time in my life, I never really looked back. I was like, there's no question about the information, the source, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just like, it needed to be said. And you know
Yep.
what? It just is like, after a while, you just kind of get tired of just sitting back and letting people just say and do whatever. And I was like, girl, I'm just putting you on notice that you want to
I
keep it
know.
up, right? I know. And have her just be paranoid about it's just like, just kind of keep my name out of your mouth. I mean, run along with whatever it is. We both know you like to talk about people. So just pick somebody else if you're not going to learn the lesson, because we know
Right.
you're not. But,
Right.
and
And when you
I felt
deliver it calmly, you feel so good.
so bad. I was so calm, and nobody could believe I was actually calm because because that's something I normally would just be. And I said, no, I don't wish her ill. I don't wish her. But what I do wish is that she knows and sits with the fact that I know exactly, because then in her mind, to me, that's the real torture. She's now going to go back and be like, oh my God, because there's 3 other people or whatever. She said that too, I'm sure. And is now going, oh God, which one was it? Was it that one and that one and that one? And that's the true torture. But I just was like, no, I don't want to run into you. And like, if I run into you, I'm going to be pleasant, but I'm not going to be like, oh, yay. How's everything?
Exactly. Exactly. And you bring up another good point about the fact that sometimes you're just really able to be calm. And some of it is building the muscle to do it.
Yeah.
But another piece of this that we haven't mentioned that's a big factor is in this example you gave, it was very clear cut. You knew it
Hmm.
was true, and she had said something bad about you. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just like black and white. It's like if somebody tries to kill you, there's no
Right.
question that they're wrong.
Right.
Where people get stuck a lot of the time is they'll start to doubt themselves. And I
Yes.
hear this a
Yes.
lot in therapy. And I even had a little bit of this with a friend like, "Oh, am I going to sound high maintenance?" Or like I expect it all to be about me, or people will say, "Well, maybe I'm just like being overly dramatic about it, or I'm making a thing not a thing." So sometimes it seems like, "Oh, maybe it's me, or maybe I'm gonna be seen as difficult or pushy
Hmm.
or a bitch or high maintenance." All that BS that I call good girl-itis that
Hmm.
society has just cooked us in,
Hmm.
that keeps us from speaking up. And what I want people to realize is that if you're even if it's not as clear cut as the examples we're giving today on the podcast,
Right.
if your feelings are hurt, it matters. That's
Yeah.
enough.
Right.
You're not too much. And when you don't come forward to people accusing them and you just say, "Hey, when this happened,
Yeah.
I was hurt." Nobody can argue with your feelings.
Right.
You're not There's really so much less likelihood that people get defensive and react badly. In fact, I couldn't believe how well my friend reacted. But the fact that I was hurt by it is enough. And my instincts are telling me, you know what? Maybe there's some kind of friendship going forward because we are part of like a lot of history and a
Oh,
group,
yeah.
but not it's not gonna be the same for me, and it's right now, I just don't I said my piece, and that's it.
Here's the other piece to it is that you're embarking on a new chapter, new volume, new whatever you want to call it, like pun intended, right? So
Yep.
you are now stepping into a new space. And I think that is the universe, God, whatever you believe in, the devil. Sometimes it's like as soon as I decide, oh, I'm going to go on a diet, and then somebody delivers these candies to me,
Yeah.
like every time, like not, I mean, it's just mind blowing. It's like, oh, let's just bring the toffee over because I just decided yesterday I was going to not eat chocolate. Right.
It's so true.
It's like the world brings up all this. So it's kind of like, you're going to launch your book. So it's like you're going to put your big girl underpants on there and stand out on the stage, right? And then it's all the garbage. It's the same thing like a wedding. It's the same thing like my daughter's graduation.
Yep.
Yes, like it's just all this stuff just comes up and you're like, "Wait, what?" Like it's not a like what is going on? And I think what is going on is it's the world going, are you sure you want this? Because this is you're gonna need a new set of skills. Like when you launch a book, you launch a new program, you're out there, you're you're taking a step into the light. So it's kind of like one more, are you sure? Are you sure? And then it's like, if you can handle that, okay, good. Then next thing, and it's like everything,
Exactly.
lightens up.
The challenges that are put in your path
Right.
organically from the universe as you're on a journey.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
tested, and that's part of what helps you discover what you want and be sure that you want it, and then also it helps you develop yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. And I have so many. I'm actually curious. I have a feeling I know who this person I know this person is, or I know exactly the profile. I'm very curious afterward to ask you if we know the same person. But anyway, it is, and I think it's why a lot of people don't keep moving up, whether it's in their career or their marriages or their is because you've got to be able to do those, keep doing those hard things and keep developing those muscles, like continuing to show up and practice like you're, in the Olympics.
Exactly.
It's not fun. So what would you say to, other than to buy the book, of course, which we're going to tell everybody how to do that, but what would you say to somebody who's listening to this and is like, okay, this really resonates with me. I need to have a hard conversation. Like, what's the next piece? What's the next step?
So the part we skip usually that's so important is the internal processing, is really connecting to yourself and
Mhm.
spending a lot more time getting curious. First of all, emotions,
Yeah.
they're messengers. They are information processing signals, if we want to get scientific about it, sent to you from your nervous system. And we have so many misguided beliefs around emotions, and we try to shut
Mhm.
them out and not listen. But they are your friends, and you don't have to
Yeah.
wallow in them, but tune in and listen. That
Yeah.
anger is telling you something happened that isn't okay. You need
Yeah.
to take
Yeah.
action. Sadness will tell us that we've lost something that's worth
Mhm.
grieving. There's a wound that needs healing, right?
Yeah.
Fear tells us that we're in danger, and sometimes our brains can overfunction. But noticing what those messages are, and then we can really get in communication with ourselves first. So we want to
Yeah.
be digging around and they're going, okay, so this was the trigger, right? Identifying what was the thing the person said or did or didn't say or do, or that look on their face or their tone of voice or their
Mhm.
disappointing behavior. But that's just the beginning. It's always so much deeper. So,
Yeah.
what emotions do I feel? Let's name them. What messages are these sending?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
old wounds are there? It's maybe not the same thing, but what is this like? Right? That maybe
Mhm.
another time, and I had to do this with this friend, for example. Are there other times that I felt like somebody that I thought I mattered to made
Mhm.
me feel like I wasn't important to them? And of
Mhm.
course, there are. And then we want to get really clear about what we need. And sometimes what we need is reassurance or comfort. Hey, I need to know that I am good enough in your eyes. I need to
Yeah.
know this friendship matters to you. Sometimes we need a behavior change,
Mhm.
right? We need to know a need isn't being met and we need that person. We need to know if that person will.
It's like there's the conversation, and then it's kind of like the space for a minute. It's like, A, what did they say? Like, what's the response? So B, like, was the story you were telling yourself true, or just kind of figuring that out?
Right.
But then it's the then what, right? Because the person can have the opportunity then to come back in and be, and like, kind of not only never do it again, but really realize that they didn't get it, and now they really do get it. Or like you were saying, you're not sure. You don't have to, that's the thing, is you don't have to just burn the house down to
Right.
just be like, this was amazing for this chapter, and we can still go on a girls trip later with a bunch of people, and it's still going to be fun and
Right.
reminiscent.
Maybe.
But you don't, maybe it doesn't have to continue exactly on the way it was, just
Exactly.
because of that history. But you got to just kind of find out and reevaluate. And it's like sometimes, like when
Yeah.
you go to purge your closet, right? It's like sometimes I go to purge my closet and I realize, yeah, actually, I do really, yeah, I haven't worn it, but I do really like it, and I'm going to now wear it, right? And you got to just make decisions.
This is the best metaphor for friendships through time, is it's
Mhm.
like going through your closet. Like, I have some tops and dresses I've had
Mhm.
for 20 plus years.
Mhm.
I may not wear them often, but I still love them and I'm
Yeah.
not giving them away.
Yeah.
Other things, like, I'm just done with, and they
Yeah.
were great
Yeah.
while they lasted, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And then there's space for new things too that
Exactly.
I love. So, and I think also this speaks to, we have this time of so much cutting off of friendships and
Yeah.
family members happening. And the value of processing within and getting into conversation with yourself and soothing your inner child so that you
Mhm.
can be calm. All of that work you do within you not only allows you to communicate better, but it allows you to really get clear on what you need. And in this example, I don't know. I don't want to be rash and say I'm done with the
Sure.
friendship. And that's what was going to happen is I was
Right.
just ready to like retreat and never talk to her again because I was so hurt. Now it's like, maybe I'll feel differently down the
And you
road.
give it a minute, right? It's
Yes,
just like you just give it a minute. Not every decision is like, I gotta
permanent.
decide right now. Like
Right.
it doesn't have to be hot potato. It's just give it a minute and put it
Yep,
on the shelf. I
yep,
mean, and
exactly.
keep
But
coming back to it.
acknowledge it.
But
Don't
acknowledge
avoid it.
it. Yeah, acknowledge it and be like, okay, I had the conversation, dusted the shelf, put it back on. But if every time you pass by the book, you're like, that bugs me. Like, then okay, then
Right.
you're making a decision. But it doesn't. I think sometimes when we put pressure on ourselves to be like, I gotta, and this is like a be all and end all. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Just
Slow your
sometimes just
roll.
take a beat. Slow your roll.
I totally agree, and I can promise you that I have never had a person say they do this method, and this is why I wrote it,
Yeah.
and do not feel better on the other
Oh
side.
yeah. Yeah.
There's just so many people who once you do it and you do it a certain way and you see
Right.
how it leads to better results and you feel better inside, then you just don't ever want to go
Right.
back to all
Right.
that stewing and resentment and victim volcano and the
And
stories.
brooding and
Right.
yeah.
And
And
passive aggressiveness, which only ruins your well-being.
yes, 100,000%. Well, Colette, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. This was amazing. We got so much dish and so many tips and tricks and
I hope my friend
I
doesn't listen to the
no,
episode.
yes, so exactly same. Okay, yeah, well, okay, she's probably too busy, so let's just say it that way, right?
Totally.
Yeah, otherwise she'll be really sending you
I
another
highly
no,
doubt she
yeah,
will if she couldn't come to my book launch, and you know what? If
but
she
with
does,
our luck anyway, no,
I
yeah,
know, but you know what?
right?
If she does, this is the other beauty of clean
Right.
living, nothing I've said is any different from what I said to her, so
Exactly.
it's really
Yes.
all good.
Exactly. It's really it, and you know what? It really is all good. So I think
Yep.
that's the perfect note. So Colette, how can people find you? How can they buy the book? How can they do the whole system? What's next for you?
Yeah, so The Cost of Quiet is available wherever books are sold, or you can go to costofquiet.com. My website is colettejanefehr.com. I do coaching, I do therapy in the state of Florida, but coaching with people all over the place. I've also got a great Substack that I put a lot of heart and soul into called Secrets from a Therapist. That's on
Ooh,
all kinds of relationship and communication
love
stuff.
it.
And if
Love
you
it.
Google, it'll pop right up. And I send out something every week that gives you real valuable nuggets. And one
Love it.
final thing on my website, I have free tools that even if you don't want to buy the book or work with me, that will help
Yeah.
you immediately that you can download. So check it out.
I love that. And what are you on Instagram?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you. I am. And I'm very active on Instagram. So I don't know
Good.
why I forgot that at
That's
Colette
okay.
Jane Fair.
And fair is spelled FEHR for
Yep. And
people.
Colette has one L, two T's.
One L, two T. Ironically, that's my daughter's name, Julia Colette, but we call her Coco because
That was my
Colette
childhood nickname, Coco.
Coco was? Oh my god, that's
Yes.
crazy. Yes,
Yes.
her great aunt is French, Colette, and Julia's after my mom, and then Colette, and Colette is, but they would call her Coco, and so
Yes.
yeah, so oh,
Yes.
that's so funny.
Oh
So
my
here we
god,
are,
yes, all my
another connection.
emails are Coco Yako or Coco Fair. Yeah, my mom
Oh,
still calls me Coco.
well, I don't know. Maybe you should go back. I don't just saying, but
I know, I
all
know.
right. That is a riot. All right. Well, Colette Jane Fair, Coco, I loved having you. This was amazing. You guys go buy the book, The Cost of Quiet. And I'm Marley Major, wrapping it up for another episode of Every Day's a Train Wreck. And if you are listening to this, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, most importantly, share it with a friend. And please, if you're just like listening to this, like go to our YouTube channel at The Prophet Goddess and watch the whole thing because I think some of Colette's and my facial expressions will be worth the look. All right. I
Agreed.
can't thank you enough. Thank you,
Thank you.
Colette. All right, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.